You are on the line. I'm your host, Juan Roque, with my partner in crime, the Rhino, Ryan Knowles. And
Sir.
Rhino, they want to talk about trap game. They want to talk about are they overlooking? And we just talked about this during the break about this isn't going to happen with this team. Fans are going to look into Oregon. I got some cute little stuff posted on my wall today about the duck and blacking out the duck. But, right now it's all about the buffalo.
Yep.
And that buffalo's in Colorado at that university over there in Boulder.
The fans may be overlooking this game, but
We're not.
You can't.
And we're not.
It's a trap. It is a trap game. Coming off of a bye week, a Thursday night game in front of a national televised audience. Don't forget.
All eyes on you.
This is still a team that has, there's only one, what is it? 6 of their last 24 road games. So there's still some struggles there on the road they have to kind of get past in order for them to really come out and be successful.
So, in my opinion, it's a huge
on
game.
A consistent basis, whether it's home or away.
Absolutely, and I think it's a huge game for the simple fact that it's a Pac-12 road game. Like you mentioned, haven't been that good on the road. This is a chance to win 2 in a row on the road and go get some momentum going into the next game. But Rhino, this isn't a team that's just going to lay down. Colorado, they didn't play us tough last year, but they had some big wins. They beat Arizona at home.
Yep.
They play tough in Boulder.
They're scrappy.
They run out to Ralphie. They got a good crowd. It's not a team that's just going to walk in and lay it down.
A lot of tradition there. Some very great teams, especially back in the 90s.
And one of their coordinators is part of that great tradition.
Eric Bieniemy. That's right. Yeah, he's the offensive coordinator. He really runs the skill positions. And
let's talk about the Buffs on offense.
Skill positions. Yeah. A lot of these guys were not expected that they have starting or were not expected to be contributors. This is a very young team, very raw, but a lot of talent there. And this all starts with their quarterback, Jordan Webb. He won the job in the fall over Connor Wood. Kind of the same situation Taylor Kelly was in. There were 2 guys ahead of him, both upperclassmen. Connor Wood was the backup last year, and he really won the job over. And he's put up some decent numbers. He's threw for 961 yards and 9 touchdowns this year, 4 interceptions. Kind of subpar completion percentage, only 58%. But he still gets the job done, and he can zing it all over the yard if they give him time. But he's a pocket passer, so if you can get to him,
they got to protect him too.
Their offensive line's a little bit sketchy outside that left tackle.
Right.
So if you can get to him, they gave up 4 sacks against UCLA. If you can get to him,
they're averaging 4.8 per game.
They could have a hard time. And their receiving core is very young, especially with former number 1 receiver Paul Richardson, lost for the season with an ACL injury he suffered in the spring. He's a medical redshirt right now, but they're led by redshirt freshman Nelson Spruce, 24 receptions, 260 yards, a couple touchdowns, and also sophomore Tyler McCullough. He's got 19 for 238 and 2 scores, and they've got a pleasant surprise from a former defensive lineman now playing tight end in senior Nick Casa. He's got 7 receptions for 168 yards and 2 touchdowns, but a big surprise has been their running back position, where former high school, this guy's a true freshman, Christian Powell, former high school fullback, never had more than 4 carries in a game in high school. He's taken the job from incumbent Tony Jones. He's a load. It's 6 foot 250. And he's got 69. Yeah, he's got almost 300 yards on 69 carries and 3 touchdowns, and he had 154 yards in 1 game against Sacramento State. And Tony Jones, he still contributes. He's got 181 yards and a touchdown in the year. Big play potential here. Had an 84-yard run against Washington State.
And you mentioned their left tackle on the offensive line. The premier member is David Bakhtari. He was a second-team All Pac-12 performer last season. This season, he does have a little bit of hype going into the season with being mentioned as an Outland Lombardi Award candidate.
A lot of comparisons to Nate Solder.
I don't see the comparison. He's not as big as Nate Solder. He's about 6'4", 285. Solder's a 6'7", 300-pound giant.
Gotcha.
And of course, does a great job with the Patriots over in New England. But Bakhtari definitely will probably play guard in the NFL. But I definitely think he has the goods. Definitely a kid we're going to want to watch Saturday.
Yeah. So. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they can do against that offensive line, because it's pretty makeshift right now.
Absolutely. So that's going to do it for this segment of our show, folks. Talking about some key matchups in Arizona State's October 11th matchup with the Colorado Buffaloes in Boulder, ESPN, nationally televised game. Right now, there's going to be some hype going on with these players. They're going to be excited. They're going to be ready to go. And one guy that I think is going to be key in this game, and we talked about Mr. All Pac-12 Player of the Week, 4 sacks against Cal. Will Sutton, I think, is going to be one of the key matchups, is him against that interior Buffs line, Rhino.
Absolutely, and that interior line really got exposed against UCLA when they sacked Jordan Webb 4 times, and I really think guys like Will Sutton, Junior Onyele, Carl Bradford, they're going to be able to get after it and really pin their ears.
I don't know if they
come
can block
after
them.
him.
I know.
Yeah,
I don't
honestly,
see it. I don't see it.
other than Bakhtari, their left tackle, it's a very makeshift line. They don't have a whole lot of fluidity on that offensive line. They're still getting used to playing with each other. There's a lot of new faces and new positions on this team. There was a lot of turnover from last year. They're still trying to get acclimated. You know, John Embry's doing his best, but that offensive line is probably the weak link on that offense.
Right, and of course they're going to be keen on Will Sutton, and this is what I kind of envision around because I try to play offensive and defensive coordinator looking at those two sides of the ball. If you're going to double team Sutton, you're going to leave someone else block one-on-one. It's either going to be Jackson Hood, like you said, Carl Bradford coming along the edge, but here's another kicker, the blitz, Brandon McGee. Chris Young, who you're really high on.
Yeah, Stephon Martin.
Stephon Martin.
Yeah.
I mean, they're not going to be able to block every single Sun Devil. And when you look at the team that's giving up almost 5 sacks per game, so they're not doing a good job of protecting the quarterback as it is.
And ASU just coming off a 7
sack
game
performance
against Cal. So
Rhino, when you look at our linebacking core, the possibility for the blitz, and you know they're going to dial it up.
Oh yeah.
At some point, I haven't seen them tee off on the team yet in the blitz.
This is one of my
I think it'll be a long afternoon.
This is one of my key matchups in this game. And Webb and their quarterback Jordan Webb has really only had success when he's had time to throw. If you can rush and hurry him as a young quarterback, he's going to come apart. He's going to make mistakes when he can't get the ball out, and more often than not, he's just going to have to tuck it and take a sack because this defense has shown itself to be capable of getting after the quarterback, especially up the middle through that A gap where they love to bring pressure.
Yeah.
So, and you know, they can get consistent pressure from Will Sutton, Junior Onyele, among others. It's going to be a long, long day for that.
Right, and here's another matchup that we can talk about is our DBs because, like you mentioned, Keenan Johnson last week had a couple of big plays. We knew he was going to get his.
Keenan Allen.
Yeah. Excuse me. This Colorado receiving core is not all that impressive.
Yeah,
this is a game where they can just lock down that secondary.
I think
and like you said, their quarterback's going to have a long night.
They're really missing Paul Richardson, their #1 target from last year. He made some nice plays against ASU at Sun Devil Stadium. I felt like they were really going to miss him this year. And Nelson Spruce has done and Tyler McCullough have done a good job. But you know, with that between that pass rush and the ball hawking secondary that we have right now, Ozan Irabor, in my opinion, played his best game against Cal because they were not going to his side at all. They were really picking on Deveron Carr.
I love watching him perform.
But I think ASU really needs to focus on the run game because this is still a Colorado offense that's looking for an identity right now. But they're running the ball pretty well with Christian Powell, and ASU had trouble tackling that big physical back in C.J. Anderson and shifty E.C. Sofeli, so they need to be more fundamental and disciplined in gap control. Try to avoid those big plays. And in my opinion, Carl Bradford and Anthony Jones need to be more aggressive in that run D.
All right, so those are the key matchups in this game, folks. Of course, talking about Colorado's defense as they face the Arizona State offense. It's been pretty much on fire lately. They've been doing a lot of things right, been playing very well. And right now, when we look at Colorado's defense, I think one of their biggest strengths, of course, can be defensive end, Chidiza Udo Oribe, who has 5.5 sacks so far this year. He's a very quick, shifty guy. We'll get to the second and third move, very much like Junior Onyele will.
Yeah,
he's a little bigger than Onyele.
Colorado's strength is definitely in their defensive line. They got a couple guys who can get after the quarterback. He's one. They got another guy I think who's got 3 sacks on the year. I think that's the other defense.
Will Persiak.
Will Persiak. Who's got.
He's a guy that's been starting for a long time. Has been involved. 27 tackles. He has a sack. He's had a lot of pressures. He just hasn't been able to get to the quarterback. This is gonna be a big test for our tackles.
Yeah, but definitely. I mean, this is definitely. I mean, you and I will both talk about it during our keys to the game. One of our keys is to get on Colorado early. Really take them out of the game early, and you can do that against this defense.
Yeah, they have 3 true freshmen alternating in.
That's right, and but they've been outscored in the first half, 130-56 in 5 games. That's amazing. They're giving up over 300 yards passing a game, about 165 yards rushing a game. So you can really get after this defense if you can block those guys up front.
Absolutely.
So, and then just their
linebackers right now.
This defense has really gotten exposed because they've had a couple of injuries to safety Ray Polk and their linebacker Douglas Rippey, 2 of their best players. And then you talk about their secondary. I mean, they got a couple good young players in Kenneth Crawley and Terrell Smith. They got 40 tackles each. They get after it a little bit with a couple pass breakups each. So I mean, they got some talent out there, but it's raw, it's unpolished. So for them to have to come out and really go up against a team that's 26th in the nation in points per game, it's gonna be a very big test. And then another guy who I think is one of their best up and coming players, junior strong safety Parker Orms, who was kind of a part-time player last year. He's really come in and established himself. He's got 6 pass breakups on the year, but they also like to move him around the field. He's second on the team in tackles for loss with 7, so they like to bring him up in the box for run support, and they can drop him back. There's not much of a drop off there. They're going to line him up all over the field. And then you talk about the linebackers. Derek Webb leading the team in tackles from the weak side with 37. He's got a sack on the year as well. Gets good pressure on the quarterback. He's a hard hitter. He's got 5 tackles for loss on the year. Very strong in run support. Same can be said for their leader, the anchor on that defense. On the strong side, John Major, 36 tackles.
He's their heart and soul.
He's got a sack. He's got an interception. He's the leader of that defense. Very, very good run defender. Fills those A gaps extremely well. So it could be hard. It could be a challenge for ASU to run between the tackles on Thursday.
And ASU has yet to really show a dominant running attack. They've made their place here and there. DJ Foster, he's broken some great runs. Cam Marshall started to show more signs of his old self, but ASU has yet to just come out and just flat out run the ball on somebody.
Yeah,
and they haven't done that. They haven't averaged 6 yards a carry yet. They haven't gone to a 100-yard back yet.
Yeah.
This is a game that they need to do that. They need to establish the run early. They need to get these guys moving backwards, and they just need to take it to this Colorado defense. I think this team right now is coming at the right time of the season. It's a time that ASU can work on a lot of things, but they got to be focused. They got to go in there, and like we mentioned, Randall, they got to get in there with a fast start.
A few too many missed blocks, I felt like, against Cal. They just got to do a better job up front of recognizing where the hole is supposed to be, and just going out there and doing their job, doing what's coaching them every single day. I mean, Todd Graham wants to be a running team. He wants to be able to run the football. They haven't been able to do it with much consistency. Most of their success has come through with the pass this year. So I think this is a great opportunity for them to really go out there and have a good game on the ground against a subpar defense.
Absolutely. So they're having an introduction to the Buffalo defense. They'll be facing our beloved Sun Devil offense. And, of course, you're welcome to join the conversation anytime on our Facebook page. Let us know who stands out on Colorado's team in your opinion. And, of course, never forget, On the Line 74. Of course, www.facebook.com/On the Line 74. Don't go away. When we come back, we're going to talk about some key matchups in this Buffalo defense versus ASU offense game. And don't go away. We'll be right back. Ryan Knowles, and talking about some key matchups in this game right now, because like we talked about, this is a game where ASU can make a statement in a way, and in a way that they haven't done in a while for the running game. And to me right now, the biggest matchup right now is, and I know I always go back to the trenches, but that's where I played, and that's where I grew up, and that's where I'm comfortable.
Yep.
I like the smell of grass. I like the smell of dirt, and I like the sound of someone grunting when you run into them. So to me, the biggest matchup is going to be ASU's offensive line against this Buffalo defensive line. They got some players on there in Persiak and in Udo Uribe. Let me get that name right. But the interior is a little soft right now. So in my opinion, one of the key matchups is going to be these 5 uglies, which is Evan Finkenberg, Jamil Douglas, Cody Kabensky, Andrew Sampson, and Bryce Schwab. Finally, and Chris Coyle when he's in there on the run plays, is to finally be one fist, be one group, be one nasty road grading group that just goes out there and just runs people over, knocks people on the rear ends, gets to the second level. That's my key matchup. These guys are going to define this season, and I think it starts against Colorado.
That leads into one of my key matchups, and that's ASU's running backs, because it's a two-way street. I mean, it really is when it comes to the running game. I mean, you gotta have good vision. You gotta be able to read the holes when they're there, be able to cut outside when you have to. Just the ASU running backs, I don't know if they necessarily made the best decisions when they get the ball in their hands this year. I mean, obviously, Marion Grice, Cameron Marshall, and DJ Foster, they've just been inconsistent running the ball this season, whether it's been the blocking or the choices of the running backs. They just need to have a breakout game against this subpar defense. I think that's a huge key in this game. Before really facing some of those tougher Ds in the teeth of the schedule, they need to prove it to themselves that they can run the ball with some consistency, gain 8, 9, 10 yards a pop, and I think this is a perfect defense to be able to do that against.
Absolutely.
And staying with the offense, one of my key matchups has got to be Taylor Kelly against the Colorado secondary. The Buffs have a young, athletic secondary. We talked about them in their defensive preview. They've caused some problems for some quarterbacks. They got a lot of pass breakups, but they're prone to be giving up the big play.
Right, because of the youth and experience.
Really needs to take advantage of that and continue this really strong role that he's been on ever since the Missouri game, where he's
second half of the Missouri game.
Yeah, very true, very true. But I mean, he's got to continue to work multiple receivers into the mix. He finally was able to hook up with Darwin Rogers for that score in the first quarter. And then I'd like to see him get Alonzo Egwenu more involved in the offense. He had that one nice catch against Utah. I'd like to see him look for Alonso a little bit more on the outside, and then continue to get the ball to Kevin Ozier, because right now to me he's been their most consistent receiver. Maybe not their best. I'd say that's probably Rashad Ross, but he's definitely been their most consistent. He doesn't drop balls. He catches everything you can throw at him, and he's one of those guys where, I mean, if he gets a step on his man, if you throw it up, he can go get it. So we just need to have a little more faith, I feel like, to spread out Colorado's secondary and just maybe take some shots downfield against a secondary that's still learning learning how to play together.
Right, and talking about my key match about the O-line versus the D-line, one thing I would want to see, I would like to see Cam Marshall and DJ Foster both get over 100 yards. And it's very possible in this game.
That'd be great.
And I think that it just comes down to that attitude, it comes down to that nastiness. He's got to do it.
If they can get out to a lead early on and really start to run the ball in the second half and wear down that clock, that could certainly happen.
So 200-yard backs, and I want 6.5 yards per carry. Tired of this 4.5, 4.7.
Yeah, I hope so.
These guys are too good to not be getting that. Alrighty, so that's our key matchups for this ASU versus Cal game coming up October 11th on ESPN, nationally televised game right in Boulder, Colorado. It's probably a little chilly up there too, Ryan. Don't you think? Probably in the 30s, maybe the 40s. It'll be a little nippy out there. But of course, you're welcome to join the conversation as always on our Facebook. Comment below. And when we come back, we're going to be getting into our keys to the game. Don't go away.